Every empire was built upon it. Every major war was fought for it. And every civilization that lost it simply vanished into history, before gold, before fiat, before Bitcoin. There was land, the oldest form of wealth, the first currency, and the most brutal measure of power. Welcome to the Chronology of Wealth. We talk about digital scarcity like it's a new invention, as if Bitcoin was the first time humans managed to turn math into value. But long before the blockchain, there was another immutable ledger carved not into code, but into the soil itself. L'angular d'assets finite, visible, inforgeable. The one thing that could not be printed, mined, or cloned. And because of that, every system that came after gold, credit, fiat. Crypto has been a desperate attempt to recreate what land already was, a store of value backed by reality. Money was born because not everyone could own land. It was a receipt for access, a way to trade slices of permanence without owning the earth itself. But the truth never changed. Land was not created to serve money. Money was created to serve land. In ancient Egypt, wealth wasn't counted in coins, it was counted in acres along the Nile. Floodplains were value. Pharaohs didn't hoard metal, they hoarded territory. Whoever controlled the soil controlled life. Fast forward to Rome, the world's first corporate empire. Land was distributed as latifundia, vast estates worked by slaves. Land wasn't just income. It was citizenship, collateral, and status rolled into one. So poor didn't just lack money, they lacked a claim on existence itself. And when Rome collapsed, the currency it left behind wasn't gold coins. It was feudalism. Europe's dark ages were not defined by ignorance, but by ownership. The king owned the crown, the church owned the land, everyone else owned nothing. This is the part most people miss when they romanticize sound money. There was nothing sound about it if you didn't have a title deed. You could work a field for 40 years and still die owing rent to someone who had never touched the soil. Land was wealth, but only for the few allowed to claim it. That exclusivity was its genius. The ledger of the Middle Ages was not digital. It was written in law, lineage, and violence. It was transparent to everyone who mattered and immutable to everyone who didn't. That system didn't end because it failed. It ended because the injustice became too obvious. The peasants revolted. The merchants rose. And by the time capitalism arrived, land had not disappeared. It had simply evolved. The Industrial Revolution was financed on land mortgages. Banks didn't lend against ideas. They lent against acres. Factories were built on collateral. Even the first government bonds, the British consols, were backed by land rents. When capitalism claimed it had replaced feudalism, it was lying. It simply monetized it. Land became financialized, chopped into parcels, titled, taxed, and securitized. Ownership went from a privilege to a product. The feudal lord became the landlord. The serf became the tenant. Different names. Same dependency. See, every time humanity creates a new form of wealth, we end up rebuilding the same hierarchy. Gold was just condensed land, mined scarcity. Fiat was land abstracted, promises to pay rent in paper. And now Bitcoin, for all its radical promise, is digital land, finite, mined, owned, and defended by code instead of soldiers. Scarcity never died. We just learned how to simulate it. You can hear it in how people talk about Bitcoin. It's digital real estate, it's unforgivable property, it's freedom from the state. All that language is pulled straight from feudal DNA, because deep down, humans still crave one thing, ownership that outlives them. Bitcoiners call it self-sovereignty. The nobles of old called it a title, different tools. Impulse. But here is the uncomfortable truth, even in a digital age. Power still belongs to whoever controls the ground you stand on. Crypto wealth, stock wealth, paper wealth, it all flows back into real estate. When prices go up, where do the winners park their profits? Land. When inflation hits, what asset holds value best? Land. And when markets crash, what do central banks buy to stabilize everything? Mortgage claims on land. You can't eat Bitcoin. You can't live inside a share certificate, but you can sleep on land. You can plant on land. You can defend land. That's why every revolution that pretends to escape it eventually circles back, because land isn't an asset. It's the stage where every other asset performs. We like to think money evolves, that technology makes us freer. But if you zoom out far enough, you'll notice the same cycle repeating across centuries. First comes land. Then comes credit. Then comes collapse. And when the paper burns, we run back to the only thing left that can't be printed dirt. The value of all the world's real estate is over $380 trillion more than the global stock and bond markets combined. Let that sink in. Every innovation, every financial product, every line of digital code we've ever invented still sits beneath a ceiling made of land. It is the real reserve currency, the collateral behind civilization. Today, the top 10% of humanity owns more than 85% of the world's land value. That's not a coincidence. That's the persistence of feudalism hidden behind market prices and mortgage contracts. We call it a housing market, but that's Sekunde or polite lie. It's not a market, it's a sorting mechanism. The rich don't hoard cash, they hoard permanence. And permanence only exists in one place: the ground beneath your feet. And the irony is deepest in the crypto world. Bitcoin was supposed to break the monopoly. But the longer it lived, the more it began to look like the world it tried to replace. The early adopters became the landlords of cyberspace. And when their profits were made, they flowed back into the real world, into real property. Crypto gains became condos. Tokens became titles. Because at the end of every digital illusion, the winners cash out into the same physical scarcity, land. The game never really moved online. It just expanded the board. And the same rules still apply. He who controls scarcity controls value. He who controls value controls time. And he who controls time owns everyone else's labour. The Romans had their empire. The British had their colonies. Today, it's real estate investment trusts and sovereign wealth funds buying the planet piece by piece. And the ordinary person, for all the talk of financial freedom, is more landless than ever before. Renting isn't failure. It's taxation without legacy. You can invent new technologies, but until you solve the problem of ownership, you're just running simulations. And history doesn't reward simulations. It rewards whoever holds the deed. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe and ring the bell. History has the answers and will show you where to look.